Real Talk.
Hello!
Kamusta kayo dyan? Been a while!
Yun.
Been a while. I'm sure everyone missed us with all the Gilas, Pilipinas, Coach Jod Reyes, and daming developments. Pero park muna natin itong basketball. Today we have another very special guest. Of course, kaibigan po natin for quite some time. USEC Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thanks to the both of you for having me in your show.
Welcome to Real Talk.
Yeah, Real Talk. So that already sets the tone. May konting fire, fuego. Let's get the ball rolling. First of all, USEC Malaya, well, you have been an undersecretary in a number of administrations. We have been bumping into each other every time may mega elections, diba?
That's
and
right.
I see you, working in the government and also para sa akin, you're the quintessential public servant, no? Or to put it more technically, you're the man...
Kaibigan talaga kita.
Or to put it more interesting, you're the ultimate Mandarin, which means public servant, diba?
Thank you. Thank you.
So you said, can you tell us a little bit about where is this coming from? Is this a family tradition? Because your brother, Ambassador Malaya, someone I've also had the privilege of knowing throughout the years because of course, foreign policy issues. Is this a Malaya Brothers thing? What's going on there?
It looks like a family tradition because my father was a former RTC judge. No, he was a city prosecutor and an RTC judge in Naga for many, many years. And he died while he was in office. And then my mother is a retired superintendent of the Department of Education. And then there was a time when there were three of us. There's four of us in the family. My eldest, Ed, as you very well know, is an ambassador. I was with many government agencies. And then my other sister, I have two sisters. At one time, my sister was with the Supreme Court. So we're a family of government employees or government officials. There was only one na hindi nag-gobyerno. She went to the private sector. But I think it runs in the blood.
Can you tell me a little bit about this? I mean, usually pagdating sa Pilipinas, gobyerno, there are all of those negative kind of connotations about working in the government. And I mean, usually Filipinos were more like, I don't know, libertarian, kind of American style, skeptical of government. We believe in enterprise. We believe in freedoms, mga ganun. So it's not very usual. I usually see this kind of tradition in other countries, for instance, in Confucian societies, whether it's South Korea, it's Vietnam, or even China or Taiwan. Very valued kasi yung public service. It's one of the most prestigious things that you can do in Confucian societies, no?
But not necessarily in the Philippines.
Not necessarily in the Philippines, no? I think there's the American influence also there among others. So, para sa ating mga audience, pwede niyo explain, Yusek, masarap ba mag-servisyo sa gobyerno?
I don't know. Maybe I just caught the bug.
Yeah.
Kasi I've never worked in the private sector. Parang immediately after UP, no? My first job was in Congress.
Right.
So, and my work in Congress, I think, opened up to me the, public service. Kasi in Congress, that's where you really understand what governance is all about. Because you determine policy and then makikita mo, ito lang pala ang limitations of implementation. Diba? So, how laws are made, the wheeling and the dealing and all of that. No? So it was a good introduction. And from then on, I've never looked back. No? Before I was appointed to the National Security Council, I was counting all of the government agencies I've been to.
Yun nga.
You'd be surprised how many.
You have
a guess?
12?
Lower, but
almost there, no?
Almost there, 10.
Wow.
I've been to 10 government agencies.
Can we listahan natin?
Saan nag-start?
Well, I began in the House of Representatives, so I worked there. I also worked in the Senate. I worked for several senators. No? I worked in the Office of the President, in the Office of the Solicitor General, in the Department of Education, in the Department of Interior and Local Government. I also worked in local government, in the Pasay City government. And then I worked in, have I mentioned DILG?
Not yet. Which
yet.
was your previous position.
Yes. Before, during the pandemic, I was at the DILG. And then I worked in UP. So I said, I taught in National College and
Right.
Just before I joined the NSC. Government din yun kasi it's a state university. And lastly, the National Security Council. So I've been around.
You're still young, no? You're still young. Maybe we want to ask.
Hindi naman.
Kaya I want to ask which admin baka. Kailan yung congressman? But of course, I first got to know you when you were just about to get out of the Aquino administration as you work in the Department of Education, right?
Well, I joined, I was in the Department of Education nung panahon ni GMA.
Ni GMA, sorry.
GMA.
My apologies. Yeah.
You
Yes.
were
And
USEC at that time ba? Or
Assistant Secretary.
ASEC,
I was an
Yes,
ASEC.
yes.
Yes. And then during the Pinoy administration, I was not in Malacanang at that time. I was with the Senate. So I was with Cheese. I was
Right.
with Cheese Escudero. And then during the Duterte administration, I was first with Senate President Coco. I worked for him when he was Senate President in the Senate. And then I went to the DILG. Sabi ko nga sa'yo magugulo ka eh.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Ikaw,
so-
may ano ka na.
Pero parang hindi ba nakakalito yun sa education tapos napunta sa DILG. Pero what do you think, bakit napupunta sa iba-ibang positions and...
Hindi ko rin alam kasi you don't know where life will bring you. Like for example, I never thought I'd be in the National Security Council. Sa totoo lang, no? I was eyeing some other government position. Pero yung DILG, I was also eyeing. Before, I wanted to go to the Department of Tourism. No? Kasi gusto ko yung mga punta-punta sa mga tourist spots.
Yeah.
And then, mga beauty contests. No? I already met the secretary. It didn't work out And then I felt bad. And then yun pala, I was going to be brought to the DILG. Sometimes it's a divine providence. Because I found myself in the DILG during the pandemic. So I was part of the IATF. So I was thinking to myself, maybe God brought me to the DILG because I have something to do. And I served as one of the spokespersons of the IATF during the entire pandemic. And then when the Duterte administration ended, I also left the DILG. I went back to teaching. I went to UP. And then I was invited to the DOTR.
Right.
I was already working for a few days with Secretary Bautista. Ang malaki din yung problema nila doon.
Yeah.
That was the time na...
Marami rin travel. Malapit na sa tourism yan.
Yeah, and that was the time na nawalan ng kuryente yung airport. So they wanted to help me out in working on communications.
Right.
But Secretary Anyo called me up. Sabi niya, John, dito ka na lang sa NSE.
Who was your boss before when you were in the ILG, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
that's right.
So there's
That's
definitely that kind of connection.
Yeah, and I consider him my mentor.
Yeah.
Si NSA Anyo. I've learned a lot from him, no? And ako sa tingin ko, we are very honored and lucky as a country that we have, a very bemedaled and experienced person in charge of our national security. And nung tumawag siya, John, ano ba ginagawa mo ngayon? Ay, sir, dito, ganyan. Huwag ka na dyan. Dito ka na lang. So I found myself now in the NSC. And we're meeting again very often.
Yeah, I know. Shortly, we're gonna talk about the many things you're handling. Bago tayo mag-bookingan dito. Let's go back to this. I mean, the reason I find your case very interesting is because, I and Mark have had the pleasure of talking to a lot of really public servant type of people. One is, of course, Mayor Magalong, who I think really has been at the forefront of crusading against corruption, etc. But one thing I really like about Mayor Magalong, not because only I'm from Baguio and he's a family friend, but
that's why.
But it's because, but that's all. Because parating na sinasabi, public service beyond politics, beyond partisanship, etc. So I just felt na, it's always nice to talk to people who seem to be able to navigate these difficult partisanships and fault lines because an ultimate focus nila is how to serve the Philippine Republic. Yeah.
My mantra has always been, governance is too important to be left to anyone. No, if we really care about our country, you have to be part of government. That's my mantra.
Yeah.
No? Kasi if everybody said government is too corrupt or government is too bureaucratic or government is too red tape, then what will happen to us? So, ako talaga, Richard, whenever I go to a government agency, hinahanap ko sana yung mga magagaling sumama dito. Kasi for example, I'm from UP, right? So, whenever I go to a government agency, napapansin ko sa national government, madaming UP, daming Atenista, Lasal. Right. But when you go to local government, for example, walang masyadong
biglang
UP.
Vacuum. Yeah.
Walang Ateneo, for example. Like my wife, she works in Parañaque LGU. She's the only one from Ateneo there. No, you'd be hard pressed to find the best and the brightest. So we have that problem. The best and the brightest are not going to government service. They are going to the private sector. So their talents and skills are for
Pero hindi kaya nahaluan
commercial.
na ng politika minsan or dahil bata ni mayor o yung yung kung sino yung o kaya kamag-anak.
That's
so,
right.
instead of getting the best and the brightest, yung kung sino sila may kung sino yung bata nila or kung sino yung trusted nila or parang ganun kaya yung nangyayari sa
Pwede
local.
siguro, Mark, pero alam mo, kung ikaw naman yung mayor, gusto mo rin naman yung magaling. No? And I know of some local government executives na naghahanap, pero parang wala lang. As you said kasi, there's this perception na ang local government is too political.
Yeah.
Pero nagawa nga ng iba, ba't hindi natin magawa? No? If we want to make change, you'll have to be part of government.
Yeah, siguro this should be your next book before we talk about the other books. What is your advice for people who want to serve the governments, the people through the government, but perhaps are not very sure about, what is the best way to navigate? Kasi tama naman sinasabi ni Mark na as much as some want the best and brightest, there are also some who have an interest in keeping some of the best and brightest out because they're outspoken. They're like, hey, Darian, for instance, right? Medyo mahirap kasama yan,
It's
di ba?
not for you.
Yes, he's good from the outside, but don't put him next to me. Like, how to navigate itong mga inevitable na lang, sabihin natin, na politika sa loob ng birokrasya, sa loob ng
Plus, there
gobyerno.
are people too na pumapasok sa gobyerno to make money.
Yes.
Yun yung kanilang motivation, di ba? Yun
Yes.
So, how do we put in yung mga tao na alam nating merong skills talaga and kaya talaga yung mga best and the brightest talaga.
Yeah.
Paano kaya magandang gawin doon?
And
Napakahirap naman na tanong yan.
and mas maganda, in fairness naman, medyo gumaganda na rin yung benefits and all, di ba? Nagiging
That's the first thing I'd want to say.
competitive na ngayon, exactly.
Very competitive. There was a time, assistant
Exactly.
secretary,
Exactly.
10 or 15 years ago, 20 mil, 25 mil ang sweldo. You know why? Because I looked at my service record and it says there the income.
Yeah.
Sabi ko, wow, this was of course, iba naman kasi yung ganung pera before. No, mas
Saka bata ka pa.
bata pa,
yeah.
no? But now it's very, I think, for senior positions
Well,
very
Very
competitive.
competitive.
Well, it's not the salary of a CEO,
Yeah.
but kung ano ka lang naman, gusto mo lang makahinga-hinga sa buhay, makapagpadala ng mga anak mo sa na maayos na eskwelahan,
Yeah.
di naman yung pinakamaganda. It's not bad.
You could live comfortably without being tempted too much by corruption or di ba? Parang mas, you get good enough na salary na.
Especially if you're director's level, no?
Yeah.
Even department head sa LGU, no?
Right.
Pero siyempre, the reality of government is, ang dami pa rin casual, ang dami pa rin contract of service, no? And yung contract of service sa gobyerno, minsan 6,000,
Right.
5,000, 8,000, no?
Yeah.
Especially yung mga tinatawag na job order.
Right.
And just this morning, I was reading the papers. Sa DSWD, 80% or 90% of their employees are contract of service. Yeah. So that's one of the causes of corruption. If you have lowly paid individuals sa baba, no? But if you happen to have if you're lucky, nakakarating ka sa posisyon na mataas-taas, even division chief or department head or director, maganda na yung sweldo sa gobyerno.
Yeah, which is, a position that someone, with some advanced degrees from some of the, top universities perhaps can aspire to, yung mga ganitong position. And then may mga tax breaks, may mga benefits, etc. Kasi marami ako naging kaibigan na assistant secretary. And you're saying
Wala naman tax breaks.
Wala naman.
Walang tax breaks.
Wala naman.
Wala.
Like, kunyari, bili ka ng kotse, wala pang yun, para mga diplomats.
Wala.
Talaga nag-check na talaga. Ilocano talaga. Baka naman.
Walang ganon.
Yeah.
Oo.
But that's the point, right? Especially at the national level, at director level, it's quite competitive. So hindi ito yung...
Because of the salary standardization.
Exactly. So may mga improvements. Kaya nga I wanted to ask you because you have been working with the government for quite some time. You have seen these improvements na nangyari sa ating bureaucracia. Can you tell us more about the good things that have been happening over the past 10, 15 years that you have been working in the government or so? Anong mga good trend lines na nakikita nyo in terms of public service? Kasi kahit pa paano, umangat na yung economy natin. You wouldn't see all this BGC and all 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yes.
So my expectation is things are also kind of moving in the government level despite all the noise and concerns we have. Not legitimate, of course, also with government.
Well, we try, to make we try to improve different aspects of society.
Right.
I think we saw that nung panahon ng pandemic. Despite the fact that people were locked down, we delivered. For example, the vaccination campaign. Dineliver natin yun. We got vaccines from all sources. I think we're the only country that did that. Meron tayong Sinovac, meron tayong Johnson & Johnson, meron tayong Pfizer. Kumbaga, the decisions were made fast. Procurement was expedited, and we were able to deliver on vaccinating the vast majority of the public. Ibig sabihin, government can deliver. No? Yun nga lang, there are cultures, may mga kultura sa iba't ibang government agencies that you have to contend with. No? And yun talaga, ang isa pang problema, of course, is the 6-year cycle. Pagkatapos ng 6 years, may bagong presidente,
Right.
tanggal karamihan ng mga tao. So you have to start from scratch again. Except if you're a career executive service officer, then usually pinagbibigyan ka. But that doesn't mean you're there. Because if the secretary doesn't like you, he can put you in the pool.
Yeah, medyo by the sides. Yeah.
And for 6 months, sweldohan ka. Pero kung hindi ka mahanapan ng lalagyan, then you're technically out of a job. So may mga pitfalls naman. But ang maganda is nakikita mo kaagad yung trabaho, yung impact yung nagagawa mo. Again, I'll give the example of the pandemic. I handled the ayuda distribution together with the DSWD. So, yung SAP program, SAP 1, SAP 2, yung ayuda 1, ayuda 2, those were all projects that was entrusted to me together with the DSWD. So, I would go down to the barangays together with the mayors to distribute. So, nandun nang gagaling yung aking yung appreciation that I'm happy to be here kasi
fulfillment ba?
The fulfillment, yes. Because sabi ko, if during the pandemic I was just at home and just watching Netflix, I would not be happy. Because I don't know, maybe as I said, yung bug, no?
Yes, a family tradition.
There's a family tradition to be part of the solution. Lagi kasi akong ganun eh.
I see.
I want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
So, whenever I'm given a task, talagang ginagawa ko para makakontribute to the improvement of the problem.
And Yusek Malaya, like obviously, working in the government, especially as a spokesman, we'll talk about your latest iteration soon, but
yeah,
you get a lot of flack, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration. Siyempre, speaking of pandemic, I mean,
yes,
I've been part of the system in terms of coverage of all of the complaints that the people have had. Although I agree with you that we also were able to deliver a lot. How do you deal with that? All of the kritisismo. Is it a thankless job? I mean, what's going on there?
Oh, well, you need to have a thick skin. So kinakapalan ko talaga yung mukha ko because coming into government, I already knew that you cannot
please
everybody. So alam ko na yun. So, well, one secret is I don't care. I don't read the comments. I just do what I need to do.
Yung nga din gusto kong tanong, Yusek Kasi lalo na nung panahon, of course, ni Pangulong Duterte.
Yes.
Diba, syempre, very divided yung bansa. Grabe yung awayan, social media. How do you take away yung politics and just focus on your job? Kasi syempre, yung mga, for example, DDS, lahat sila cheering you, or yun namang nasa kabilang side. Lahat ng ginagawa is parang wala namang okay. So, how do you take politics away from...
Ako, I just do what I think is right. No, for example, ito, si Mayor Vico Soto. Okay, Mayor Vico Soto and I are friends. Okay, up to now. Okay. But during the pandemic, may sinabi siya na statement na kasi he wanted to utilize tricycles.
Nagalis si Digong doon.
And I came out on Laging Handa and I said, no, if other mayors can deliver, can do their job without the tricycles, no, why can't Pasig do it? Grabe yung reaction.
You mean supporters of Vico?
Supporters of Vico. Talagang binanatan ako, no? They were so mad at me na parang government is singling out Vico, but yung message ko doon was more, it wasn't because Vico is from the other political fence or from the opposition. My message there was government has to have the same policies and standardized. Kasi alangan naman di ba? Alangan naman sa Pasig pwede, sa Valenzuela hindi, sa Maynila hindi. That was my point.
It's a rabbit hole. Then everyone will ask for their exceptions and everything like that.
Exactly. So, I didn't care because I'm not a politician. Ang lagi ko nang iniisip, ngayon, di naman ako matatalo sa eleksyon o matatanggal because of this, no? And I'm supporting government policy and my boss believes in what I'm doing. Ang mahirap kasi dyan, papagalitan ako na yung Secretary Anyo. Sabihin sa kaya pinagsasabi mo dyan kay Mayor Vico. No? But despite that, nung ayuda distribution, andun ako sa City Hall. I was meeting with the mayor.
Yeah.
Kasama ko siya nag-dispute sa mga constituents niya. And he never talked to me na, John, alam mo, Yusek, nung dinira mo ako. Wala. Wala. And,
pero pinagalitan siya ni Digong eh. Ano ko yun eh.
si Digong yun.
Baka kaya mabait siya sa'yo.
Si Digong yun, hindi ako. And it never became an issue to me. I've been to Pasig City Hall many times. The DILG is fully supportive of him. In fact, tinutulungan ko pa siyang ma-meet yung targets.
Yeah,
I told him kasi sabi ko, Mayor, looking at your targets, medyo nahuhuli ka sa barangay na to, nahuli ka sa barangay na ito. Sabi ko, ang gawin mo, Mayor, wag pa isa-isang barangay. Sabay-sabay tayo mag-distribution. I was giving him tips because I knew what Valenzuela did, I knew what Muntinlupa did, I knew what Manila did. Manila, mabilis.
Right.
So, best practice sharing because it's part of my job. And he appreciated it. And kaming dalawa, nasa labas kami, namimigay ng ayuda, cash, sa mga tao.
Right.
Yeah, so,
trabaho lang eh.
Trabaho lang.
Speaking of Mayor Vico, kasi you were part of DILG nung time na yung lumabas yung mga dynamic mayors na katulad na Mayor Vico. Of course, yung kasama
Mayor
dito
Isko.
si Mayor Isko.
Yes.
So how was it during that time? Ano yung mga nakita nyong best practices na ginawa nitong mga mayors na ito and other mayors sa NCR as well and sa ibang lugar?
Yan, Maynila, pinupuntahan ko rin yan. I always see mayor natin,
Yorme,
no? Mayor si Yorme, no? Well, ang nakikita ko is the use of technology. Kasi I saw some LGUs, for example, in the distribution of ayuda, naka-database.
Correct.
Naka-database. So, yung kanilang mga constituents, may iPad eh. Tapos pagdating, pipirma na lang dun sa tapos release cash.
Right.
So, when you use technology, it's faster. No? And the more that we utilize that, that's going to be good. No? And then, of course, you work with the barangay. The more people there are helping, that it makes the process faster.
And Yusek, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the different presidents that you have worked with throughout time, like from GMA to Digong, and of course now BBM? I'm sure you had at least chances of having some interaction directly with the president. Medyo marites na tayo. Pamunta na tayo dyan. How is, for instance, President Arroyo? What was your read of her? Tita Arroyo ko siya, by the way.
Well, we wrote a book about presidents, right?
Right. Yeah. Papunta na tayo dyan.
Salamat sa mga bumili kasi it was on the bestseller list for many months, no? Sa Power Books, number 8 siya.
Stewards of the nation, right?
Stewards of the nation.
So this is from Aguinaldo all the way to President Duterte.
Still available at National Bookstore.
Still available. May 3% discount dito sa Shopee. Talagang nag-stock na ako dyan. Baka naman. Ang ganda ng cover. I like it. Ano ba? Parang seal ng Philippine Navy ba yan?
Hindi. That's the seal of the Office of the President.
This is really nice. I mean, how did the idea come about? Because you felt you're your insider information, interacting with them.
It was really Ed's idea.
Your
It was
brother.
Ed's idea.
Yeah.
He was abroad. He needed someone to work with sa Philippine side. So sabi niya, why don't we write a book about presidential inaugurals, presidential administrations? So sabi ko naman, pangit naman kung inaugurals lang. So let's do an assessment of the presidency, of the presidential terms, and the impact on the Philippines. So sabi ko, sige, kasi I like history a lot. So sabi ko, I'll write Aguinaldo to Quezon, to Rojas actually. And then all the other presidents, ikaw na magsulat. Kasi si Ed also worked in Malacanang during the FDR administration.
So you're dumping this on your brother. Pag hindi ako nagsulat
The controversial part.
Hindi just cover all that easy ones.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, because ang ginawa ni Ed, since some of them are living, iba ikli lang.
Patay.
Sorry, Malaya. But mine was much longer.
Right.
Okay, but it was Ed who did the first few chapters, which is about presidential terms and
framing.
Sa kanya yun. And the job of a speechwriter and the impact of a presidential speech. Sa kanya yun. And then comes the different terms and dun ako pumasok.
And can you tell us what are the broad patterns that you have been seeing? What are the continuities, discontinuities? Bago tayo more marites in terms of dealing directly with some of the living presidents that you have served under. What is a general pattern? There is there any pattern that you see throughout the years or continuities and discontinuities?
Yeah, ano tayo eh. With different types of presidents have different personalities and different ano tayo eh. We have if we go, for example, compare with the United States, no?
Yeah, exactly.
That there are some certain themes that follow with
Correct.
each presidency and with each party in power. More or less, you have an idea of a continuity, no? Kasi each political party, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats or the Whigs, at one point there were the Whig Party in the US. Meron makikita mo yung certain principles and programs
Policies and
that are consistent. Sa atin medyo magulo tayo eh. Yeah. I think the Philippine presidencies can be classified on the basis of pre-martial law and post-martial law.
Right.
Of course, yung presidente natin nung before the first Philippine Republic was just its own thing, and then we have the Commonwealth presidents, which was also their own thing, and then we have the Rojas moving forward,
right.
No? Because during the Commonwealth, the purpose of the presidency was really to fight for Philippine independence, no?
Right.
After World War II, rebuilding, and then we can consider all those presidents from Rojas to Macapagal as a nation building phase for the Philippines. And then pagdating ni Marcos, that changed the entire
reset the deck.
One of the transformative presidents in my opinion, the old man, kasi whether you like him or hate him,
for better or for worse,
his impact has been tremendous to the country.
21
and
years.
Then we have the post EDSA. I think that's how I frame our history if we look at the presidential lens. So post EDSA because the post EDSA, and then if there's some continuity, it would be the Aquinos.
Right.
The Aquinos. Kasi I would think that the post-EDSA presidents were mostly alike, except for Erap, who was some sort of outlier, and Duterte, who's some sort of outlier as well. And then we have the son, Bongbong Marcos.
Who's more continuity, right? I mean, some would say that President Marcos Jr. so far is more like your traditional post-Marcos president. Some would say that, right?
Yes.
I mean, in terms of he's more like your standard president. I mean, he doesn't seem to be like shaking up the status quo too much, which is quite ironic, but some would even say it's actually probably a good thing, for that matter, right?
Yes.
Because the expectation was different. I know you're working for this guy, so let's talk about the ones that hindi mo na work for. How was it working for the President Arroyo? I interviewed President Arroyo. You can check it on YouTube. She's a very stern, authoritative, very smart person. No?
Very authoritative.
Very authoritative. Professor talaga eh.
Professor, very strict.
Yeah.
You sometimes you don't really know her mood. Because of her personality.
Yeah. Very strong.
I did work for her in Malacanang, but I was just an assistant secretary at that time. I wasn't really much in her radar. But we were at the office of the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel. So it was
which is quite important.
Critical office. So we were also with the OSG. I was also with the Office of the Solicitor General after our stint at the Office of the President. So yan, i-impression ko sa kanya, very, very strong because she went through a lot. No?
Yeah.
And she was able to hold on to power.
And the misogyny and everything that comes with being a female president, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest about it.
But she has this presence kasi.
She has until now, especially now.
So people can't just take her away from the equation. When she was president, she was really the president.
So no wonder Lenny has picture with Arroyo. Maybe we can ask Ma'am Lenny about it. Now, President Digong, how was it working for President Duterte?
I really
He's
enjoyed.
Quite different. Right?
I really enjoyed.
It's quite different, right?
I really enjoyed it, and I don't know your viewers, but if what their political leanings are.
No, in person, he's very charming.
He's very charming.
He's super chill guy to talk to. I know in person.
I would also consider him to be a transformative president because he
even if 6 years lang, kumpara kay 21 years ni Marcos Jr.
Because
Marcos Sr., sorry.
Yeah, because I think he left a very big impact on the Philippine psyche, and he had great hopes for the country. And in for example, the drug problem, despite the immensity of the problem, he was able to make a great impact there. No, alam natin yan. That's why his approval rating is still very high, despite the fact na normally a president towards the end of his term mababa yung approval rating, pero yung kanya.
Because he really shook the system, no? And people felt something had to be done. Now, I'm not gonna rerun my Banat by debate on the drug war, but you came in towards the end of...
No, I was there.
DLG ka...
I was with the DILG already around 2017.
Oh, so you were there dun sa kasagsagan.
I was there. I was there when decisions about the pandemic. I was in the room when the ECQ was imposed. I saw him up front and I saw his leadership. No, see the cabinet meetings I attended during the Duterte administration were some of the fiercest that I've seen. Kasi you can just imagine the cabinet members debating whether we should go on a lockdown. Kasi syempre yung ibang mga, of course, di ba?
The stakes were high.
I remember the tourism secretary was saying, if we're going to place the Philippines under lockdown, you might as well abolish my department. Yeah. Ganun na yung mga sagutan doon.
Of course.
Nagsasagutan sila about what kind. Ako nga, I remember when the decision was made to impose an entire Luzon
March na yan, di ba?
Yeah, entire Luzon. Hinabol ko pa sa Secretary Anyo. Because tama ba na ang buong Luzon?
Yeah, ako rin, I couldn't believe it at first when I heard it.
Bakit buong Luzon? Sir, baka na naman pwedeng Region 3, Region 4A, tapos NCR. Gumagano na ako kasi I knew. Because I'm here, I might as well have my voice be heard. So tumatakbo ako sa kanya, hinahabol sa kanya. Sabi John, mas madaling kontrolin kung buong isla ng Luzon. Ako naman, when the boss speaks, tumahimik na ako. But, pagdating ni Presidente, tahimik lahat. And then, he listened to everybody's point of view. And at the end of the day, lockdown tayo. And the decision, what's important with leadership is, whether good or bad, a decision has to be made. Kasi ang pinakamahirap is yung walang decision.
Indecisiveness.
Indecisiveness is not good for government or for any business entity or government agency. So sa kanya, ganun siya.
Executive call talaga.
Executive call, and then nagpa-press con siya, binuksan yung camera, nasa likod yung mga military.
No, matanong ko lang, under kay President Duterte, lalo na pag sa cabinet, parang meron bang may konting fear sa kanya? Or parang nakakatakot kasi si President Duterte. Pag gusto niya, pag sinabi niya, ito talaga eh.
It's more of a public persona. In the cabinet, magkakaibigan sila lahat doon. In fact, si Presidente Digong gusto niyang makipag-chismisan hanggang alas 2, alas 3 ng madaling araw.
Oh, we could see that.
That's his style.
Live. He was really a master communicator in many ways, but very unorthodox. On that note, marami na tayong pag-usapan pang in terms of specific issues. I think this is the perfect segue for that. Thank you very much, Yusek Malaya, for sharing your points of view. And again, yung book mo, Stewards of the Nation, nandito sa Shopee. Pwede i-order yan.
Thank you.
Bestseller. Please support it because we need more works like this. I can say it. Definitely we need that, especially for newer generation, para ma-appreciate nila yung arc of leadership.
Coming from a fellow author.
Of course.
That's a high praise. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yusek, for joining us.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, guys, catch us soon. We're gonna talk about other issues, especially now, iba na yung national security. So that's a lot to discuss. Thank you.
Real talk